it's Amara here.
And it's Jessica
from Sci for Us. Welcome to our STEM sessions, where we bring science to you at home.
We make science available and accessible for everyone. Welcome to today's session. In today's session, we are going to be looking at space and the solar system. So, what do we always start off with? 60-second experiment. So today we're gonna try to do a little race.
Okay.
And the aim of today's little race is to see who can put their pipe cleaner through the hole of the strainer whilst wearing the glove as quick as possible. So as you can see, we have sieves or strainers, however you like. I think these are ones that are just a bit too small, but we'll still try. And we have kitchen gloves, and we also have pipe cleaners. So yeah, should we go? Yeah, okay. So take 2 pipe cleaners. Ready, steady, go! Ooh. So that was really tricky, right?
Yeah.
And although you won, it was very
hard.
Yeah. And the reason why we're doing this is because astronauts, when they go into space, they have to wear those thick spacesuits, right?
Okay.
But whilst they wear those thick spacesuits, they still have to try and do like the most delicate and intricate of things whilst they're there. So they have to be really precise.
Okay. Yeah. So they still have to be able to fix things in space, but they have massive gloves.
So that was just like a little experiment just to see how tricky and how hard astronauts have to work when they're in space. Like it's not just them floating around. Yeah?
No, that was fun.
So, experiment number 1. For this experiment, we're going to be looking at the planets using different fruits or sweets. So for this experiment, you will need paper plates. We've got celery, marshmallow, kiwi, cherries, some strawberries, oranges, nectarine, mango, and some sweets. Okay. And you also need some blue paper. If we take our paper plate each, so we know that this galaxy is like a dark bluish, blackish colour. So we're just going to use our blue paper and we're going to like cut around it, make it stick on our paper, on our plate, and that can be like our backdrop. Okay, so once you've got your blue backdrop, now we can put our stars on our plate, and we're going to show the stars by using marshmallows, which will rip up. So just dot them around. Once you've done your stars on your plate, what we're going to do is we're going to go in order of the sizes of the planets to show our planets on our paper. So there's actually like an acronym that you can use to remember the sizes of the planets. So this one that we found was just sit up now every Monday morning.
So Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Earth, Venus, Mars, Mercury.
Perfect. Okay, so that's the acronym that we're going to use. Feel free to make your own, even leave comments on there to show us what you've come up with. Okay, so Jupiter is the biggest one. So for Jupiter, we're going to use
nectarine or peach.
So what you can do is just cut it up using a knife, so you might need some parental supervision. Okay, so with Jupiter actually has double the mass of all of the planets to get all together.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Jupiter actually Earth can fit in Jupiter 1,000 times.
Imagine.
That's how big Jupiter is. Our planet Earth can fit in 1,000 times.
That's the Jupiter. the next one after that is Saturn. So for Saturn, we're going to use
kiwi.
exactly.
So yeah, you just want to cut your kiwi. Find it easier to cut it widthways so that it's smaller than your
Jupiter.
Yeah.
So with Saturn, actually, Saturn has many more moons on it than any other planet in the solar system.
And it also contains the second largest moon called Titan.
So that's Saturn. Then the next one, so just sit up, so that's Uranus. Okay. So with that one, we can use a mango to represent this. Okay. So with Uranus, it's actually only ever been visited by one spacecraft, and that was called the Voyager 2.
Another fact about Uranus is that it actually is our coldest planet.
So after Uranus, in order of size, comes Neptune.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll use the strawberry to represent Neptune.
So a fact about Neptune is it actually takes 165 years to orbit the sun.
That's crazy.
160. Ours takes 365 and a half roughly days to orbit, and it takes 165 years. But it's because it's the furthest away from the sun. So it means that its orbit around is just going to take so much longer.
Another fact about Neptune is the fact that it actually takes like 4 hours for sunlight to reach the planet. Basically, you don't want to live with Neptune. So after Neptune is our beloved Earth, and for the Earth we will use
cherries
to represent this.
I'm sure you know many fun facts about our Earth, but we know it's the only planet that can sustain life. So we're the only planet that has humans on it.
And another fact about the Earth is that actually our atmosphere protects us from like meteorites and all the stuff in solar system, so they can't really like harm our Earth basically. Then after the Earth comes
Venus.
Venus.
For Venus, we can just use a sweet.
Okay.
But it should be smaller than what you decided to use for your Earth. Now, an interesting fact about Venus is it actually spins in the opposite direction to all of the other planets.
Okay.
So it's just doing its own thing in that solar system.
Another fact about Venus is that it's actually the hottest planet in the solar system. Okay.
What's next?
It is Mars.
Yes, it is Mars. So for this, we are going to use celery. So Mars has a volcano called Olympus Mons, and it is the tallest volcano in our solar system.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Another fact about Mars is that it's the planet that loads of like astronauts or space people have gone into. So it's had the most amount of missions.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Then last but not least, Mercury.
Woo, Mercury.
So the smallest thing that you can find. We'll just use a bit of our sweet, and you may want to like write labels on your paper so you know exactly what is what. Okay, so Mercury gets its name from the Roman messenger of the gods. So that is where we get the name Mercury. I'll quickly write labels on it. Okay, so we started off with
Jupiter.
Saturn. Oh, do you know what we forgot on Saturn?
What?
Saturn has rings around it.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah, so the rings around Saturn are made up of tiny particles that people can't even see, they're so small.
Okay.
But they're also made up of particles that are the size of a bus. Scientists think that they're rocks that are covered in ice.
Okay.
So they think they're ice particles or like snow particles that are actually make up these rings.
Okay.
And there's loads of, although in pictures we draw one ring,
Yeah.
there's actually between 500 and 1,000 rings all
on
around. And some of the rings can be separated by like 100 meters, some are separated by an even bigger gap. But there are many around Saturn, and that's the only planet that we know that has those rings.
Yeah.
So we're just going to use a toothpick and poke it through Saturn. That represents our ring. And then we had
Uranus.
Yep.
So
Our strawberry was Neptune, which is the 4th biggest. Then we had Earth. Then we used Venus for our marshmallow. Then we used Mars for our celery. And then we used Mercury, our tiny sweet. Once you have all of your planets, what is at the center of our solar system? What are they all orbiting around?
The sun.
The sun. So our orange represents the sun. So we're just going to put it there. Just to show that our sun is part of the solar system.
Yeah.
This isn't in any of the orbitals or in any order. We just wanted to look at size and the different planets that are in our solar system. So you can add the sun, which should be the biggest.
So for this experiment, we are really just focusing on how far each of the planets are away from the sun.
Okay.
So what you're going to need for this experiment is some paper plates, some paint, some cutouts of the planets, paint like palette, paintbrushes and glue stick and scissors. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is just paint your plates in like a greyish, like the galaxy colour. You could use either paintbrush, if you don't have paintbrush, you could just use some paper towel and dab the paper towel into the paint. After you've painted your plate, you can leave it to dry for like 2-3 minutes. And whilst you leave that to dry, you can then take out your templates, your planet templates, and just start cutting them up.
So once you've laid out all of your planets, you just need to draw a sun, because that's going to be at the centre of your solar system.
So once you've cut out your planets, what we're going to do is we can actually think of a mnemonic which will help us to remember the order of the planets, from starting from the one closest to the sun to the one furthest out.
Okay.
So one that we found that could help us is my very excellent mother just served us noodles.
So Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Okay.
What we need to do is we're going to try and make a spiral plate. So cut around like you're cutting a circle. And so you get to the top, and you can see how it's basically a spiral. So once you've made your spiral from the plate, then what we're going to do is we're going to start with our sun, because we know that the sun is at the center. So in the center, we'll just get your glue stick and stick down your sun. So after the sun, as we said in ours, the next one was my, so that's M. So then we have Mercury. Then after that we have V, so we have Venus. After V we have E. So then after E we have Mars. After Mars we have our Jupiter. Okay, so after Jupiter, we have Saturn. Then after Saturn comes Uranus. And then last but not least, we have Neptune. So Neptune should be the furthest away from the sun. So we have our sun in the middle, then we have our Mercury, followed by our Venus, followed by our Earth.
Then followed by Mars.
Then followed by Jupiter. Then we have our Saturn, our Uranus, and our Neptune. Perfect. And that is the solar system.
And
so with this experiment, we're going to make spinning planets. So what you need is like a small plastic bottle. So we've just used the Tropicana ones, black paper, yellow paint, some paper clips, rubber bands or elastic bands, tweezers, scissors, sellotape,
cardboard. And
like
optional like cellophane.
yeah.
So we have one that has Starry Night.
So firstly, we're going to take our black sugar paper and our yellow paint, and we're just going to create like a starry galaxy, and this is what we're going to use to wrap around our plastic bottles. Once you've finished designing our starry vision, we're going to put that to the side, and then now we'll take our cardboard and we can cut out our planets, any planet, and yeah, just cut that. We'll then cut out some cellophane and we'll wrap some of this around our planet. So with the cellophane, you don't want to cut too much, but you still want a bit of excess because this is what the paperclip is going to wrap around it. So then we'll move on to the next bit, and what you'll need is your plastic bottles. So for this side, we're going to need to put a hole in our plastic bottles. So you want one hole at the bottom, not too big because we don't want our paperclip to go through it, but we want it to be big enough to allow the elastic band to go through. So one at the bottom and one at the top. So to do this hole, you'll definitely need parental guidance or supervision. Okay, so then what you'll need to do is get a paperclip and 2 rubber bands, and then take one rubber band, and then we're going to loop the second rubber band through the first one, and you have to just tie a knot so that it stays like this. Then you'll need to take a paperclip, and through the side with double bands there, you'll take your paperclip and just basically hook it through. So now it's stuck on there. The next step is we want to put our rubber band through our hole at the bottom of our bottle. And fed it through. What you need to do is take your tweezers, and we just want to pull the end of the elastic band. We'll grab the end of the elastic band, and then we're going to want to pull that through.
So once you have pulled it, just keep it on the end of your tweezer like this, and then what you have to do is get another paper clip. So be holding it like this. You may find it easier to have a helping hand or do it in a pair. And then what you want to do is unfold this paper clip and straighten it out on one side, something like this. And then what you want to do is then replace your tweezer part with this. Have this, and you'll be able to feel that because it's an elastic band, we know we have elastic potential energy, so you can feel that it wants to string back. So once you have it in this position, you need to make this part of the paperclip a right angle, like so. Make it as secure as possible if you just bend the hook back on itself so that the elastic band does not come off. Again, adult supervision is required to bend this paper clip. So the next step is to get your lid and to feed it through like so. So as a right angle, you should be able to now rest your bottle like this. Make sure the paper clip doesn't come through. So now you have a mechanism like this. Before you move on to the next step, what I suggest you do is just test it out. So what I want you to do is spin it really, really tight until you feel it start pushing back. Okay, so once it does that, you know you're ready for the next step.
So the next step, what we're going to do is we can actually take our Starry Night that we created, and we're now going to wrap this around our bottles. Wrapped it. Now we'll take our planet that we had wrapped around with the cellophane paper, and it's probably unraveled, so just you might want to tighten it up again. This excess paper clip that we have out, we're going to wrap that around our planet or our cellophane. So you just twist it round, and you want it to go as tight as possible. And once you feel that it is reached as tight as possible, then we're just gonna let go. Okay, so why is it spinning like this? And the reason why is because of the potential energy that has been built up as we spun the Earth or planet around, and then when you let go, that's the kinetic energy which is helping it to move. Okay, so for this experiment, we're gonna make our own astronaut glove box. And what this is basically when astronauts go into space, they like to collect maybe moon rocks or other stuff that are in space, and then they keep them in this box which is filled with nitrogen, so that the pressure is kept at, the pressure is all right. And then what they do is that they bring it back, and then they go through it and they really study what happens, what is there present in space. Okay. So we're just going to make our own space box. Okay. So for this experiment, you're going to need shoebox, kitchen gloves, cling film, wax, sellotape, markers. We have some magnifying glasses and bowls, just stuff that you can put in your glove box to make it look like you've collected it from space. So the first step is to cut 2 holes in your box, and this is where your kitchen gloves are going to be. And to make it easier for yourself, because we won't actually need this top flap, so you can just cut that off straight away. So the main reason why astronauts really keep the use a glove box is actually for protection. So when they put the moon rocks or anything they've collected from space inside, they keep it in this sealed box in order to prevent any damage happening to the items that they've collected, or actually maybe to protect us from any of the items, because we don't know whether they're dangerous or not, because we're now going to look at them in more detail. So it's just for protection on both sides. Make sure your hand can fit through, so because the Amara's fits through.
Then they're in the case size.
So once you've checked that and they're fine, what you need to do now is take your kitchen gloves. What you do is you put that through there, and then you just tape around it. This is how you should look, ready to touch your items. Then the next step, what you're going to do is you're going to start putting some items in there. So we can start putting like the rocks, we could put some markers in there, jars in there, just put anything, and then we can just imagine. So this is also kind of like you imagining that some of these items are things that have been found on those planets. Okay, and look at some of these rocks. The last step is to add, now that you've added all your items in there, we want to just seal it with some cling film. Okay. So you just want to tape it down to make sure that it's not going to lift up. So, as you can see, we have our sealed container or box. We have our gloves, which we're using to touch the items so that it doesn't hurt us or harm us and we don't destroy anything inside. We have our magnifying glass, which we're using so that we're able to see the items much more clearly. And that is the experiment. Hope you have fun.
So we hope you enjoyed all the experiments. Remember, if you did any of the experiments, to send us in videos. And yeah,
Hope you enjoyed.
see you soon. Take care.